I really is interested in D&D. Like, I don't. The lore is too convoluted, and they added a lot of things since, like, what was it, fourth edition? No, it'd be like third when I was in high school. And it was very, like, third edition, or was it fourth? It's one of those. It was very difficult to follow along because like you had to specifically spec entirely for one or one and a half routes. Like there wasn't a lot of subclasses. You didn't really have, and it had the one D 100 system where instead of like rolling a 1d10, it was more like percentage based. This, unless I'm pretty sure this is what D&D was, unless I'm thinking of the cyberpunk tabletop. But and you can create effectively whatever the hell you want. Like I enjoy role playing as a character. Sometimes you play with people who don't. Like sometimes you play with the guy who will always play a male paladin in every single game because people want to play themselves, and it's like, okay, I find it weird, but that's okay, but I don't. Like, it's fantasy. You can literally play whatever the fuck you want. And, but the creation of it, and, you chose your race, you chose your class, and again, from whatever you chose, you had a toolbox to work with, like depending on what race you chose and depending on what class, depended on the type of things that you were better at and you were poor at. But even if you were bad at something, there's still wiggle room because you're rolling the dice. Like you're batting with RNG and all that. Really, your proficiencies really are just extra pluses. So it kind of are minuses. So the pluses air more towards success, and the minuses towards failure. But again, you're rolling RNG, so I mean, the dice gods giveth and the dice gods taketh away. But apparently, in the new edition, apparently you can spec uh whatever traits you want on whatever race. So apparently your race is nothing more than a cosmetic. And this is the thing that many fantasy games are headed. Like Age of Wonders went this route, which uh, kind of made it less of what it should have been. I mean, again, the idea of race is in a fantasy setting is completely different than our idea of race in reality. Like, again, the halflings are not just humans, but shorter or with pointy ears. The elves are not just humans with pointed ears that can do magic. The dwarfs are not just humans but are short. Like they are a completely different evolutionary path of a completely different creature, right? The fact that we look similar ish is kind of where those differentiations end, but and I know why ideologically this is happening because you have people that work in Hasbro, people that work in say the Wizards of the Coast that just have this want to shove this odd ideological bent into a completely like completely fantasy setting, completely fictional, and it just proves that you know that ideology, social justice, just they cannot think outside of reality. Like everything needs to be rooted in reality. Everything needs to be, you know, your take on things. And it's like, well, again, the point of fantasy is to take you out of reality, right? And again, why are races in fantasy different? Well, it creates drama. Like, in drama is the essence of fantasy, right? Because you have Lord of the Rings, where you had the elf, the human, and the dwarf. Fat races that don't care for each other. You have the elves that can live thousands of years. Are attuned with magic. Uh, the favored race of the gods, and they view the humans as hairless monkeys just gallivanting around the place. They view the dwarves as just bearded fucking idiots. And again, this idea causes drama, and we know the point of Lord of the Rings, right? The point is to have these separate races who don't really like each other, but they come together to stop a superior evil. Like, they come together to stop Sauron, which threatens all like living things in that world. And this creates character development. This creates drama. This creates, and then it's these things. These are the things why, like, uh, Tolkien Tolkien's works are widely liked, right? These are the reasons why even George R. R. Martin, his at least in the past, his things are like. But this idea that, oh no, everything needs to be the same, everything needs to be equal, like, this takes away from fantasy, right? This takes away the drama. This takes away the intrigue. This takes away, character development. But again, they don't think this way, and it's odd that there's people who work for, again, Hasbro, which is one of the greatest, like, biggest companies, you know that is over this. Like, they're like, they want to make the product worse, because at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? You can play the game however way you want, like, because it's what you do in the sanctity of your own home. Hasbro cannot reach, or Wizards of the, or who it's Wizards of the Coast, cannot reach into your room and tell you otherwise. But it's just one of those things that, like, what is the end goal? Like, what are you trying to achieve with making these changes? And apparently they're trying to achieve some moral balance. Lucy, I'm petting my dog. Wizards of the Coast has shown off new ideas for the new phase of Dungeons and Dragons, and rather than a new edition, it's something they named 1D&D. There are new ideas for character creations, with changes on how to use races, backgrounds, and feats, as well as how some basic rules will work. Here you'll see the changes when it comes to races. Keep in mind that all these are subjected to change. Your goal is to see feedback concerning these changes, and some things will be altered before 1D&D is actually released. General changes. As far as changes, that applies to every race. The biggest one is that they no longer offer you increases in your ability score. These increases now come with your background rather than race. The same goes for language, where some are free, others come with backgrounds. Sub races are no longer a thing, so no more mountain and hill dwarfs. However, some races have the similar concept like lineage. More on that later. Everyone now has 30 feet of movement as well, so being a small race no longer hinders your speed. And again, that's one of the things that just add to, a specific campaign other than take away. Like, that extra ability scores. Like, all these little tiny things and all these tiny pluses just add to the experience, but they're taking most of that away, and they're taking away sub races, and it's like, well, why? Like, that. Again? They don't tell you why. They're just saying, "Oh no, these are changes we're making," and I guess the idea of backgrounds are fine, but see, they could have added changes with backgrounds, but kept everything else the same, and added things with lineage, but also kept everything else the same. That would have been fine. Another big change is the hybrid races are no longer present, so if you don't have half elves or half orcs, instead you have elves as usual and orcs taking the half orc spot. Still, if you want to be a hybrid race, the example half elf, half orc, you'll choose either elves or orcs to give you the mechanical abilities, and you can just choose how your appearance is going to be, or going to be from there. It's like, but again, these things add flavor, right? Because okay, why are there half elves? Why are there half orcs? Well, I guess it's elves breeding with humans, and these are one of those things that again add to the story if they're there, right? And you, the character, can build upon these things, or you don't have to care. You're just like, oh, well, I'm a half orc, don't know, don't care, bonky bonky bonk. But these things only really add, and taking away these things only will really take away. Humans, get this shit off my screen. I'm reading. And this just makes it fucking smaller. And here comes another fucking ad. The whole human and very human differences is essentially gone. In 1D&D, humans resemble the latter. The first curious change is that you can choose to be medium size, 4 to 7 feet tall, or small size, 2 to 4 feet. A type of choice humans never really got before. Okay, I guess that is fine. Well, I know in Baldur's Gate, or in one of the editions, being a human was effectively overpowered because you just got pluses in everything. Like, +1 in everything. Which, again, depending on how you want to play, was either good or bad. But it was still kind of overpowered because you could min-max, and that's what most people did. They still get one free skill to becoming proficient with, and one free trait, just like Varian humans. However, you can only choose feats available to the first level, since now feats will have level limitations. There's one more thing that is unique here, though. Whenever you finish a long rest, you gain inspiration. 1D&D has quite a few rules that give your players inspiration, compared with it only being given when the DM's lot feels like it. And this is one of these cases. So, resting is already overpowered because you just get all your HP back. So now it's even more overpowered with a long rest. I mean, and again, the reason you had it at the DM's discretion is just, in some DMs, I don't think use inspiration, because it's a little gamey, but again, a long rest as a monk, you get all your key points back. As a wizard or sorceress, you can change between spell slots, right? You can change out spells. You know, above getting all your HP back, and now you get an inspiration. I'm assuming it's for a little while. Dragonborns won't change a lot, so pretty much the same. Only a neat little perk and a few changes to their breath weapons, so mechanics. Dwarves. So some things will still be removed. Dwarves no longer come with specific weapon proficiencies. And with the Mountain Dwarf's Dawn, you no longer have light and medium armor proficiency. Just for being a dwarf, the advantage of investigation from stonework is also gone, as well as brewing tools being an option from tool proficiency. Now every dwarf gets +1 to their HP for every level, like hill dwarfs. You now obtain 2 tool proficiencies. Blah blah blah. Stone cutting with it, you can use your bonus action to give yourself tremor sense. As long as you're using it in a stone surface, you can use a number of times. Okay, so again, they're removing the subclasses and they're removing proficiencies. Again, proficiencies are what makes certain classes and certain races, better at things than other. I mean, you can kind of work around this, but again, the point is all these ingredients put together adds to your character. Like if you take ingredients out, like you don't make the soup better, right? Unless they're bad ingredients, I suppose. But even the good and the bad is what makes a character a character. Elves, basic elf traits are all still here from the whatever. So there is much discussed regarding what changed lineage, which are various for versions of subraces. So I have the big three: high elves, wood elves, and drows. So you have what I don't know if these are. They wouldn't technically be considered subraces because of the lore of the elves. But again, none of them gives you weapon proficiencies anymore. Instead, they give you spells when you reach certain levels. High elves, prestidigitation, detect magic level 3, misty step at 5, get dancing lights, fire, and 35 feet from the start. Again, they're taking proficiencies away, which adds to the game, right? It adds these things, but none of them have been revised. Received a similar adjustment to elves. Their basic traits are the same, but their lineage suffered alterations. Force Gnomes will still get 3 minor illusions, but you can choose during character creation whether you want to use intelligence, wisdom, or charisma to cast cantrip. They also get speak with animals, which can be used a number of times equal to your proficiency bonuses. With a long rest required to refill. Again, long rests are just so fucking big. Like you can effectively game the system with long rests, or you can use spell slots. So yeah. Rock gnomes get mending and prestidigitation cantrips, but with a plus, you can use prestidigitation for 10 minutes and some materials to create a small device. With functions, you can get to choose or someone else, and you or someone else can activate it during combat by touching it with your bonus action. The trait essentially replaces Tinker from 5e. Wasn't Tinker the bonus action? I don't know. I haven't played Gnome. I wanted to play Gnome. Now I'm playing a Halfling, right? So I'm gonna talk about this and probably end it because this is too long. Halflings no longer have sub races, and like the previous 2 entries on this list, don't have lineage either. They all get the same thing, similar to how dwarves have changed. You can still move through spaces occupied by characters larger than you, but it now specifies that you can't stay in this space, ending debate on whether they could do that in the first place. With the sub races and their specific traits gone, you gain an extra new trait, giving you proficiency in stealth. Everything else is the same unless you count the things mentioned in the general changes entry. So if I'm not mistaken, they had the stout halflings and the other type of halflings. I know the stout gives a +1 to constitution and the other one gives something to sneak. But again, why remove sub races? I've been getting fucking ads from Nikkei. Like I know I play the game, but you don't gotta shove ads on me. Let's read the thing of the Orcs. Orcs has some very powerful become very powerful by having the best of both worlds. Their traits are a mix between a player's handbook, half orcs, blah blah blah, as well as having improved versions of previous traits. Instead of being able to move towards a target with your bonus action, you can now dash in wherever direction you can with said bonus action. Doing this also gives you temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. You can do this number of times equal to your proficiency bonuses before needing a long rest. I mean, again, it makes them just a good frontline fighter. You also gain traits of having the greater carry capacity as the Volos orcs and the half orcs ability to endure on 1 health. If it's decreased to 0, you don't die and making it better orc overall than both Volo orcs and 5e half orcs. Again, and this is just a better change, right? So I don't know why they're screwing with one type of thing and not with the other. But yeah, based on what I heard, they're effectively making all races technically the same, which is odd because again, the subclasses and the sub races just add to the experience. Like they add and taking away proficiencies from certain races just add. But anyway, it's just odd the changes they're making, and again, the type of people that work at Wizards of the Coast just no longer see D&D the way it used to be. They believe they can change it and they can do better than that, and that's just honestly it's a shame. I'm ashamed of them. But anyway, that's all I gotta say. Peace.